Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always now by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are rocking along here on Monday in the MLB, August the 14th. Had a pretty good night on Friday there, Nate, because we went 3-3. We budgeted our units correctly so that we still came out plus money, despite going 500 in the wins and loss column there. And so we're feeling pretty good about the season as we continue to be up units here, not losing money, and winning a little bit as we move along. We'll keep getting into it. So I do want to make sure you guys like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us each and every weekday this season. Also want you to head to thelines.com and check out that odds finder tool we have up there. Whenever you're on it, you can get the best odds available to you right there in a nice little chart from all these books giving us bets this season. Nate, I know we are feeling strongly about Seattle, so a couple of Mariners fans here chopping it up. Let's kick it off with that Royals and Mariners game.
Yeah, I guess we're not alone because it opened at minus 130 and is creeping up to minus 150 here as people generally bet the Mariners money line. I mean, obviously it's the Royals who I want to, kind of throw some caution at that they're not the doormat that they were in the first half.
Agreed.
Since calling up Bobby Witt, they've been much better offensively, and Brady Singer is a pretty talented pitcher here going opposite Logan Gilbert. But I mean, it's more about confidence in the Mariners, right? At this point, who were 13-2 before they lost their last two against Baltimore. In that stretch, this is not new. This is a young team that has gotten incredibly hot in August the last 2 years, pushing their way into the playoffs last year, and they're doing it again. And yeah, I mean, it is the Royals. Also, Michael Garcia might be out here as they come off an off day, which would certainly hurt their offense. And if you can just pitch around Witt, who's really the dangerous guy, you should be able to navigate this lineup. It's dead last in walk rate, 25th, 6th in secondary average, just not particularly potent. And Gilbert, obviously incredibly talented since he's come in the league, and just like really the kind of rock solid guy you want to approach a lineup that doesn't have that much pop, because his K to walk data is incredible. Like he's got the best FIP of his career here. He's got a 6.4 K to walk ratio since the All-Star break, just attacking the zone. I had a hard time figuring out why he doesn't have better numbers than last year, even though his BABIP is actually better. He's done a little bit poorly with runners in scoring position, I suppose. So he's allowed guys to get clutch hits against him. I don't think the Royals are particularly dangerous in that department. And even when he has, the Mariners have picked him up, right? They've won 7 straight Gilbert starts. They've won 8 of their last 9 overall on the road. These are not the Orioles. This is a much easier series for them to get through, especially you got 4 at KC, and then they go to Houston immediately. So that's going to be obviously the big little brother, big brother matchup later in the week. And even whatever you say about Brady Singer, who does have a very bad park adjusted ERA, taking advantage of those confines of Kauffman Stadium. Mm-hmm. Easy to say, right? His slider is his only plus pitch, and Seattle does struggle against the slider, but he's got some career worse in terms of his called strike data. He gives up a ton of hard contact, nearly a 50% hard hit rate his last 6, and people are making contact in the zone. So it's just a matter of, getting away with it, I think, in his last few. And I don't think the Mariners, the way their offense is starting to turn around, are going to let him get away with it. And then I didn't even mention the fact that this is basically the biggest bullpen mismatch you can have. So aside from these starters, the Mariners bullpen, much more reliable if this does become close down the stretch.
Yep. You covered, we're both on this game big time. I'm on the money line for Seattle with 2 units, going a little ballsy here because, well, let's see. You basically covered everything except for the bullpen mismatch, at least explicitly, and then the Seattle bats that have been really good as well, specifically against right-handed pitching. They're actually good against both lefties and righties since July started. We've got a nice 6-week sample size here of the Seattle bats having the 6th best WRC plus, also, and then basically 6th to 9th best everything when it comes to batting right now, including WOBA. That batting average is back up to 9th. They're actually 2nd in home runs since July started as well, which is not what you would have guessed outside of Rodriguez that they'd be able to do that. And they have 44. The Braves are in first with 61 LOL, so that just shows you how much Atlanta is mashing the ball against right-handed pitching as well. So that's one aspect, and then the bullpen is like huge discrepancy. You were talking about the best bullpen since July started. Once again, if you dumb those numbers down a little bit to then, and then the worst, let's just say, I mean, that the FIP is nearly 6, the xFIP is above 6, the ERA is up at 5.9 as well. It's all bad. So Brady Singer, despite how he might have been playing, the thing is he's got like decent numbers and he's still a decent pitcher, and some of his other core numbers and results-based numbers aren't the same because of the team around him is pretty bad. But I would also just say like the KC bats have been pretty good. I just want to bring that up too, to be like, I'm aware of that, and I'm still putting the 2 units on it. You know, even though KC's gone from one of the worst hitting teams, as you mentioned, Bobby Witt's helped a lot. And if you date it back to about the last 4 weeks, KC against right-handed pitching is a top 15 team, close to top 10 in terms of the stats that they're putting up, the average that they're putting up, WRC plus and all that. So they're not awful. But Logan Gilbert, I think also, to your point, the only actually other thing that I would add to him is he's filthy on the road specifically this year. And now he gets, I understand the confines of Kaufman, right? As you mentioned, off I-70 there. He gets to play in that park that should keep things there for him and in front of his outfielders. He's actually got an incredible 6.3 strikeout to walk ratio as well on the road right now, which is a really big reason for a .74 whip that he's sporting in those road starts as well. Nobody getting on base against him, a sub 3 FIP as well. So I think there's some really good reasoning to think that Logan Gilbert's going to be able to trump any kind of KC hitting. And then once it gets to the bullpen, you can't run it into the ground enough. It's the best one versus the worst one. So you got a big advantage there to take the full game money line.
2 units. Yeah, I like the confidence here from Josh. I think I had 1.2. I didn't mention explicitly, just trying to, even it out with the minus 130, maybe 1.3, whatever you got to do to get about an even return there based on the odds that close. So, yeah, moving on to our second bets here. And I am pretty confident about this one. It is going to be a player prop, though, in the Rangers-Angels game. I just want Ohtani 2+ bases. I mean, you could do a little ladder if you want, get 3 or 4. Because honestly, I think there's a decent chance he homers off Max Scherzer here in their first meeting. That's plus 250 for Ohtani to hit a homer. I'm not going to endorse putting heavy units on that, maybe 0.2 or a quarter unit. But we are talking about the best player in baseball here. And Max Scherzer, who's, extremely prone to lefty power. And it's gotten worse as he's gotten older here. And he's really self-aware of it because he's walking so many lefties. 4.2 walk per 9 with nearly a 5 xFIP when he faces lefties on the year. Walking a lot of guys in general. 8 straight starts with a 7% or higher walk rate. Gets himself into trouble early, as we saw in his Rangers debut. He might settle down and start striking guys out, but with Ohtani in the middle of that lineup, if he gets into trouble early, we could be looking at a big first inning production, whatever. The point is, Ohtani is a guy you want to back, and Scherzer, I think has too much pride to be like, I'm just going to pitch around this one guy and deal with the rest of the Angels lineup, which is injury depleted at this point. But again, two bases. So if he pitches around Ohtani and somebody else walks him, you still hit. Right. And he's a guy who has 13 walks to 19 Ks. He's hitting 352 over his last 14 games. Averages nearly 2 bases per game with a 901 OPS in his career against Texas. Since the All-Star break, these numbers are just absurd. 21% walk rate, 52% hard contact, 46% home run to fly ball ratio. And Scherzer, he's got some troubling home run to fly ball data. He just let Oakland barrel him up with barely any soft contact against Oakland. He had a 22, 32, and 30 launch angle in some of his last few starts there for the Mets, just letting guys lift it. And Ohtani, obviously the league leader in homers. He could definitely lift one out here. So I'm sticking with the bases as the safe bet here, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a homer again.
Yeah, man, just how insane is it that you go plus 250 for a home run? Like that doesn't add up to the odds, but I get it. And I'm here for anything. It's just like plus 250 is brutal for a home run bet to take that. But we are talking about the dude, like you said, probably the best hitter in baseball at this point. And the way that Scherzer is giving up the fly ball contact, I think there's something to that. My last bet here is about the Yankees and the Braves. But I want to mention, because we're talking about it, and I recently got a text from one of my buddies who lives in St. Louis. Full disclosure, I lived there for like 4 or 5 years, so I have a bunch of people out there, and there's going to be 14-mile-an-hour winds coming out of Busch right now, pushing the ball outward. So you might want to take a look at JP Sears, who is one of the most home run prone pitchers right now in the league, even against lefties, actually, which is a really interesting matchup that he has. Nolan Gorman from the left side of the plate is a guy you might be able to find some juice on total bases or a home run for him. But this is sort of like breaking for me. I just want to make sure to get it in on the show, because I think there should be looked at that if the wind is blowing out 14 miles an hour in Busch Stadium in St. Louis in this Athletics Cards game, there's some guys on the Cards that can obviously put the ball out. You got a lefty in Sears who's home run prone, so there's some good opportunity there, I'll say. The game that I'm looking at, though, is one that I know we might not be in agreement, and I let me just talk about it. The Braves and the Yankees. The reason I went first 5 under 5.5 runs, it's minus 140, half a unit on that, and I might also put a half a unit on my other bet for this game, which, no, I'm not. I'm keeping it to 0.3 units for the other bet in this game, which is the Yankees money line. And I think that's where the true value is. I hate saying Yankees money line, because the taste in my mouth from since July is just that they're really bad, but they've been a bit better. They definitely got a top 3 bullpen in the league, and that's something that's definitely helped them in games. They've kept leads, and they've also been able to keep themselves in games with that bullpen when a lot of their starting pitching underperforms, as it has all year long for the most part here. But now they've got Schmidt, not Casey Schmidt, Clark Schmidt, right? Yep. Clark Schmidt. And he's, as Nate put it, he's been more of like a spotted reliever, but he's started a lot since the All-Star break. And that's the numbers. Those are the numbers that I'm looking at, is his ERA down to 3.67. And that's across 27 innings since he's been pitching since the All-Star break. So like his whip is sub 1.96. He just had a pretty nice outing last time as well, keeping that ERA down once more, brought it down again to 3.67, like I said. And I think he's in a position that I think all he needs to do is go 5. I understand we're talking about the best offense in baseball and turning into a historically awesome power offense in the Atlanta Braves. But I do think there's something to be said for at least for the money line, the Yankees to be able to keep this thing close. Max Fried coming in for the Braves. Awesome. I mean, he's got his xERA is at 2.04. His xFIP is at 2.88. And we're talking about the best offense in baseball. I get all of that. Fried is a little bit more susceptible to the Yankees, who have been a top 8, top 9 offense against lefties since Aaron Judge came back, even though he's kind of gone back and forth and hasn't been quite himself yet. I think he'll still be able to continue picking it up, but has also just had an impact on this offense to make it. They've raised their WRC plus up to 100 over the course of the last 30 days, 4 weeks or so. And so that's good enough for 9th. Then the walk to strikeout ratio for this team is awesome. It's at 0.48, which is good for top 3 in the league right now. And they have a really nice hard hit rate. So when they're playing here in Atlanta with the ability to find some gaps, I think there is something to be said for them keeping it close. I think the runs are still going to be kept low at the beginning of this game. I do expect Fried to pitch well enough, and Schmidt to pitch well enough to keep this thing under 6 runs in the first 5, and then plus a little sprinkle on the Yankees to win it all, because I think there's a lot of value at plus 180 compared to how big of dogs they should be.
There is a lot of value because, right, as you're talking about how solid the Braves are in the spot, and Max Fried. I mean, the Yankees might be good against some lefties. Max Fried kind of defies a lot of logic in terms of how he pitches left to right, and is a tough guy to get. So that's why I do like the under 5.5 more than the Yankees to win this game necessarily. I mean, I'm just not going to try to pick on Atlanta. Obviously, the best team in baseball, the World Series favorites. If I'm taking an AL East team on the road, I was about to go into Rays at Giants and say Tyler Glasnow versus the Giants throwing a bullpen game here. Yeah. I mean, obviously the juice is completely different there, but I think the Rays probably win that one. So I'll just throw that out there as a bonus bet. But yeah, I like the balls here once again from Josh taking picking against the Braves and trying to get that Yankees money line.
Imagine being the guy who said that you should take the Oakland Athletics on Friday to beat the Washington Nationals. They get swept in that whole series. But we're coming back, at least with the juice on the Yankees. And I agree with you. I like the under more. That's why I'm going more money on it. And just a slight sprinkle on the Yankees to be able to pull this one out at 2-1. So that's all the time we have for you guys in this one, though. Continue to follow along, like and subscribe to that page. We are coming back to you guys with a full Tuesday slate tomorrow. So until we see you next, happy betting.